very first episode of my Unfiltered Professional Wrestling Experience. My name is Khan, and for the new guys, I am the anarchist of professional wrestling. Now, before I get into how I started professional wrestling and how I got into the business, I'm just going to give you a little introduction on how I became a pro wrestling fan. And I was only 9 years old when one day my cousin, he decided to literally forcefully make me sit down right beside him and make me watch professional wrestling. And the very first match that I watched was Jeff Hardy versus Triple H versus Edge at Armageddon for the WWE Championship. And as good as that match was, and it's still talked about today, and being a kid who was always interested in action movies and all those fighting sequences and everything, it used to get me pumping, and professional wrestling to me was completely stranger. I didn't know professional wrestling existed. I don't know who Jeff Hardy was, who Edge was, who Triple H was. It just happened on the fly, as they say. And I usually don't get into things really quickly, like if I'm gonna be introduced to, let's say, anime for instinct, I would probably not like it. I would probably be nitpicky about it, and that's how I have been ever since I was a kid. But professional wrestling, for some reason, it caught my eye. Like, I was watching that triple threat match, and I was just immediately hooked into it, and I was just watching with all my heart and soul, and I was like, this is some good stuff. Like, how did I not know about this before? And ultimately, eventually, after I watched that match, Jeff Hardy became my very first all-time favorite wrestler, and everybody knows that Jeff Hardy was more popular than Obama back in the day. He was like the most popular person in the entire world at that time, and it was only fair enough for me, instantly just fall in love with him. And it just like after that, I became so addicted to professional wrestling, especially Jeff Hardy, that my mom got me the armband, she got me the face paints, I got the whole Jeff Hardy gear, the tank top, the jeans, and everything. And it just became a daily thing, and I'm next thing you know, I'm jumping off of furniture, I'm wrestling my pillows, I'm wrestling my cousins on the weekend, when we used to stay at one another's place. We used to do ladder matches, we used to hang belts up in the ceiling fans, and then we just put the chairs and acted like they were ladders. And it just became so crazy, it just everything happened so fast, and I was just addicted to it because obviously I told you, I was always interested in action movies, entertainment, and all that stuff. So I just got into it, and it wasn't a dream to become a wrestler. When I first started watching wrestling, I remember, but it didn't happen until I was 11 years old, when I was like, man, I really want to become a professional wrestler one day. I didn't specifically say professional wrestler because I didn't actually know that was called professional wrestling, because I was only ever introduced to WWE. So for me, it was like, I want to become a WWE superstar one day. And I'm playing these different theme songs, and I'm making my entrance. I got my belt on me. And I used to just imagine myself, making my entrance in an arena, stadium, and there's people around me. And I've been wrestling pillows and stuff, doing rumble matches, doing my own WrestleManias, with my action figures, set around the area which I use in my house to wrestle. And it just became a thing, it just became something that I was addicted to. And I actually didn't set foot in the world of professional wrestling until 2018. Usually because in America and other countries where professional wrestling is considered something, because I was living in Pakistan, so there was no such thing as professional wrestling over there, and even in the Middle East, there were no huge promotions or any promotions at all. And it wasn't until 2018 I moved to Qatar in 2017. And I didn't realize that there was a wrestling promotion in Qatar at that time. It was there, QPW was there, but I had no idea that it existed. the fact that I had no idea that they had their first ever Super Slam in 2017. I didn't realize Sting was there, Cody Rhodes was there, Rey Mysterio was there, and all these guys. I told my parents that I wanted to become a professional wrestler, but I didn't really step foot into anything like working out or, actually training for professional wrestling because I had no facilities or where I was living at that time. And it was, I remember very, very clearly that in 2018 December, I might mix up the dates of that month, of that specific year, but I was just scrolling through my Instagram, and I happened to come across a post where it was like saying that there in Qatar there is now a professional wrestling academy for training and all that stuff. And I was like, wait, did I just read that correctly? Did I just read that Qatar has a professional wrestling academy? And I immediately went to the page of QPW Wrestling. And as I'm scrolling down, I see like, okay, these guys are legit. Like they're actually a professional wrestling company in the Middle East. And as I'm scrolling through, I come across the chairman of QPW, known as Ali Al Marafi. I call him Mr. Ali. And I went to his profile to see that is this really what it's all about? And when I'm scrolling through his profile, I'm like, yo, this is legit. Like this guy's with Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal, Sting, Rey Mysterio, Cody Rhodes, and I'm like, this is the place. Like I have to find out where this is, and I have to go there. And when I found that out, I was actually in the gym, and I immediately stopped working out, and then I called my mom, and I was like, hey, listen, I just found this professional wrestling academy in Doha. And I'm just going to text them, like, which day I could be able to come to the academy and check it out and stuff. And I was just so excited. I was telling my mom everything, and she was like, okay, just chill. We're going to get home. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go there. Obviously, we're going to talk about Dad because my dad was at work that time. And as soon as I saw that post and I was done talking to my mom, I immediately texted the QPW Wrestling page. And I realized that they were also having a seminar with an Austrian professional wrestler, Michael Kovac. And even though I didn't know who he was then, but like just to see that there's going to be a professional wrestler in town to train the guys, I was like, man, I gotta go. I gotta check it out, man. I've never seen a professional wrestler up front in my life ever. I've never seen a wrestling ring up front before, man. I gotta get the feel of it. And that's when I texted the page of when I could be able to come to see the academy. And the page immediately replied, like, this day is a seminar. It's going to start at this time. And yeah, so I was like, okay, cool. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be there. Just give me your contact number or anything. So apparently the contact number I got was of Rage. Rage, everybody knows who he is for whoever's watching this little documentary or interview, whatever, self-interview, whatever you want to call it. Rage is technically the very, very first person in professional wrestling that I talked to personally. And it's a funny story because, like, I was only 1 year in Qatar, and I really had trouble with figuring out people's accent and the way they, talk, like their English accent and stuff. So at first I thought Rage was, probably Indian because I didn't really pay attention. I was just so excited. And Rage is trying to like explain the directions to the academy to me, and I can't understand what he's saying. Like I'm like, you know what? You just talk to my dad because he's driving, and I can't really understand what you're talking because my dad's been living in Qatar for 10 years, so he's probably gonna understand better what you're saying. I hand the phone over to my dad, and they're communicating with one another, but we still couldn't manage to find the academy. We were there, but the academy was like upstairs inside of a big gym. Like it was a huge gym, and we were just looking for the academy around. Maybe it's like in a different plot somewhere. It's a different building for the academy itself. And so Rage told us to come behind that gym. And when we got there, that's when I, first met your QPW tag team champion Rage. And that was just like I said, that was the first guy I ever met in professional wrestling. And he, got me and my dad and my mom in his car. And then as we sat down, he started explaining to us all about, QPW, how these guys have had Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, Sting, and Carlito, Bobby Lashley, Chris Masters, and he's talking about all these big names, and I'm just in the seat like, Mom, do you hear that? They had Cody Rhodes and they had all these guys. I'm like, oh, I'm dying inside at that point. Like, I'm literally so flustered that I am actually getting into something legit that's related to pro wrestling. And I'm just so excited, I just can't even verbally explain how excited I was that day. And so we went to the academy, and once we got there, Ray just like, obviously we're just asking generic questions, like how old am I, what do I weigh, and all that stuff, I mean, he told me that I was young and I could probably, if I stick to it, I could make a good career out of it. And so when we got into the academy, that's when I saw all the current superstars of QPW, who's guys such as Classy Ellie, Tito Hatem, Shihab, 1D, and there were a few more guys. They were really amazing people. They don't wrestle anymore, as far as I know. But I have met some of them, over the years. Not frequently, but like once in a blue moon. But yeah, that's like if you're gonna pick someone from the current roster, like I met Rage, Classy Ellie, 1D, Shihab, Tito, and eventually I also met Mr. Ali. That's the first time I met all of them. Boy, Mr. Ali, when I started wrestling, man, he, you just had to be there when, Mr. Ali was in his prime. You're still in your prime, Mr. Ali. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. You're still in your prime. But, when Mr. Ali was in his prime, when we were having talks for a QPW Academy show, and, when we were pumping things up for the Academy to get the students on a bigger level, and he was so serious about it. Like he would always have this serious aura, like Roman Reigns tribal chief aura. And if he asked you to do something, you better do that. Because if you don't, yeah, he's gonna either make you do it one way or the other, or it's not gonna end well for you. And but Mr. Ali was very, and is still very approachable. If you want to like talk to him about stuff, get some ideas in, pitch some things, he will always listen to you. Back in the day, it was a bit harder to get stuff through with him because he would usually, keep his own ideas intact for what we want. Because obviously, when we were new guys, we didn't have any experience, so technically, it was fair enough for him to tell us to shut the hell up and do as he says, because he's more experienced and he's a promoter and he's met all the professional guys. So you're an academy student, shut up. But if he liked your idea, regardless of your position, he would get it through, and he did, which I'm going to cover in my first QPW Academy Challenge show video, which was also my first professional wrestling match in front of an audience, doing an actual show. I'm going to cover that part in that video. But Mr. Ali, he's the guy, man. He's the guy. Obviously, when guys like us who had a dream of becoming a professional wrestler, when we had absolutely no, facility to train for professional wrestling, we had no hopes or futures, hopes or dreams to have a future in this business. And he's the guy that basically, started this whole thing of professional wrestling in the Middle East. He basically got professional wrestling over in the Middle East. And, I can't be more thankful enough to him, and I'm pretty sure the other guys feel the same way as well. Khan the Anarchist, Mr. Revolution Khan in any universe wouldn't be possible without that man, Mr. Ali. And I really genuinely want to thank him for allowing guys like us at the QPW Academy, the QPW roster, to be able to live the dream, to be able to perform in front of people, in front of audiences where we wouldn't probably have gotten a chance, anywhere else, since we were not living in America or Europe. And that's just like a heartfelt thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I was just talking to Rage the entire time. He was explaining to me, like, this is how it works. We just start with basic bumps and technicals and, all that stuff. And as me, my mom, and my dad are sitting side by side, and I'm watching, like, these guys in the ring, they're doing tackles, they're throwing one another, they're doing these submissions, they're picking each other up, throwing each other down. Now my mom looks at me and she's like, do you really want to do this? Like, damn, that looks so painful and that looks so extreme. And I'm like, heck yeah, I want to do this. I mean, my mom was only, I forgot that word, concerned. My mom was concerned for me because, like, I barely ever went to the gym Like, and I've never really got into any sort of sports, let alone physical sports. I've never really got into any sports at all. And my mom just, looked at me. She was like, if it's like you wanted this, but just, be careful what you're getting into. Like, obviously, like this doesn't look as, easy as it may seem to you, because it definitely looks something difficult to do. And I was hell bent on getting in professional wrestling, and I just couldn't, see it any other way. I couldn't take no. I couldn't say, it's not for you and all that, all those excuses. And so, you know, when we're done with the seminar and everything, after I say goodbye to Rage and we're going home, and then I told my mom and dad, I said, I'm doing this. First phase of 2019, I'm doing this. I'm getting in that academy. I didn't have a job back then. Obviously, I was like 19, just studying, and I was like, please, like, you got to get me into the academy. Like, just pay off whatever they're asking for the training, and I'm gonna make it worth it. Like, I'm not gonna throw your money to waste. And they were like, let's give it a shot. Maybe I mean, my family thought that maybe it's like, for me, it's gonna be like a temporary thing, and I'm just gonna get bored of it. And so decided, like, okay, maybe we should just give him a try. Like, he's been grinding for a while. Let's give him his dream. Let's put it into his hand. Let's see where he goes with it. And so 4th Feb 2019 is the very first day that I legitimately stepped inside a pro wrestling ring. That is the first day that I ever took a bump. I ever did my rolls. I ever did chain and lockups and all that stuff. And not gonna lie, the first week I actually thought I'm not gonna last much longer here, because the first week of training was freaking hell for me. I'm gonna keep this PG, make sure not to go to beyond the limit. But the first week for me was terrible. I was stiff after the first week. Like, I would sleep and I would wake up and I couldn't move my neck. My body would hurt like hell, and I'm like, this. Do I really want to do this? I mean, if it's gonna hurt like this forever, and like if I'm gonna have to deal with this pain for the rest of my life by doing this every single day, I don't really want to do it. But eventually, with time, I got to that point where bumps felt like, just a daily routine, like I'm not feeling anything anymore. I don't feel the pain. I'm waking up, happy, not stiff anymore, after a couple of weeks. And it's just that from Feb till August, September, yeah, before they had before QPW had their first academy show, I was just putting in the work. I was just grinding my ass off. Like, I would go to training, on one extra day. Training used to be Monday and Wednesday, but I would literally go to training every chance that I got, or if a trainer or a coach was there. But the first 6 months of training were like, I really gotta get in good form. I really gotta, get in good shape. I really gotta, step up my game if I really want to be on one of QPW's shows sooner rather than later. And I'm really, really thankful, for all the guys that, during my early stage of my career, guys such as Rage, Classielli, Tito, 1D. These four guys especially, they have been gems to me in my early days of wrestling. Classielli is one of the most humble, nicest guys I've ever met. Like, I consider him my wrestling brother. It's because, like, when I was 19, it would be so hard for me to make friends. I was just so shy and I was just so introverted. I still am a bit. At least I can get in a hi or hello. And that man used to, like, just offer me every single thing. Like, I remember this small thing that he used to do. When my dad used to be at work and I didn't have a license, I didn't have a car, I didn't have, like, money for Uber. I wouldn't obviously ask, my mom and dad every day, like, you have to pay like 50 reals for Uber every single day. We didn't have metro system in Qatar back then. And this guy would just offer me, you know what? You can just hop in the car with me. You live next to me. Like, I'm going to just drop you off, And the days he couldn't drop me off, he would ask the other guy to drop me off. And he would start just inviting me over to his house to watch wrestling together, play video games. And he just made me feel comfortable with the boys, like, where I felt like a stranger, he brought out that side of me, which I would probably not have if he never initiated those conversations, or sin in the hand of friendship. So I really want to say thank you so much, Classy Ali. Even though you're a dickhead in wrestling, you're freaking, I'm the mega star, I'm the classy one, and all that shizzle. He's still a nice guy in real life. And Tito, he would come on extra days. If no one was there, he would teach me technical stuff, and he is probably one of the best technical wrestlers that I've ever seen. Especially for a guy who really new to wrestling and learning. And he was just amazing with the technique. So a little bit of the things that I know today of locking up, headlocks, and stuff were initially covered by Tito. So I would take the opportunity right now to thank him for that as well. And 1D took all the bumps in the world for me. 1D took my DDTs, took my suplexes, took my body slams, and I had to thank him for taking all those bullets for me. I probably wouldn't have learned if he never initiated to be the one behind the receiving end of the gun. And Rage was just like, he was just backing me up since day one. Rage was and is still the guy who would back me up on any given day. And we just have that relationship that we're so close that we could talk to each other about anything, and we just have fun with what we do. And that guy made wrestling for me probably one of the most happiest experiences that I could, ever tell anybody about it too. Because there's this fear inside of you that you have when you're stepping inside the ring for the very first time, or at least for the first few months, when you're doing matches, you're just scared to do stuff. It's like it doesn't come naturally, because for a guy who's never been any sort of physical activity before, it's just mentally exhausting. And that guy pushed me. That guy pushes all the other trainees in the academy, and which is why I would say that part of my success in getting a debuted on the shows of QPW was because of Rage and the way that he pushed me in training. So I just wanna thank that man so much. That guy's a brother to me. Like all of them, at least the OG guys of QPW Academy, they're all my freaking brothers. I have no grudges against them, no matter what has happened over the last few years regarding the matches and stuff. And it's things that happen on the show. It's just business, but outside of the ring, they're like a family to me, and I wish nothing but the best for them. And so after 6 months of training, after being introduced to everybody, making good relationships, getting good form in the ring, and September 27, 2019, it was my QPW Academy Challenge and professional wrestling debut for real. But we're going to talk about that in the next video. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching. And I'm honestly excited for all the topics I'm about to cover up, in the coming days, weeks, months. It's going to be a long journey, but, you got to do it. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you again in the next video.